Good evening, Chris. My name is Jay Williams, coordinator of equity, anti-racism, anti-oppression. Looking forward to having this conversation with you this evening.
Thanks, Jay. Looking forward to, sharing my 2 cents with you this evening too.
Awesome. Let's get to it. So I have a few questions for you, if that's okay. And I want to have a conversation if we can.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
First question. How does the Black or African Canadian identity and heritage play a role in shaping responses to conflict and challenging times?
I think as a people who for 400 years have experienced a lot of pain, have witnessed a lot of pain, carried a pain and trauma from past conflicts, um, or I would say from trauma that were inflicted in Black bodies. I think in present times, um, those all that's coming forward from those past generations in us, it will shape how we respond. And so, even though we might not be able to make the links and the connection to, I'm feeling this way because of something that happened way back, I think it's something that we need to have more increased awareness about the collective impact of racism, oppression, and how it shows up through time. So, yes, it plays a role. Definitely, it plays a role in how we respond to conflicts in present time.
I love that you highlighted that specifically. There's conversation about this trauma specifically and talking about the Black or African Canadian experience being trapped in our DNA or encaptured in our DNA. That's kind of what you're speaking to right now. So
Mm-hmm.
although we presently or we weren't currently there for a lot of what happened years and years and years ago, we still very much feel that currently, presently today.
That's right. We still carry the impact of the collective grief intergenerationally in our bones. And
Right.
so things like this, what we're witnessing, it brings up a lot. And there are lots of emotions, mixed emotions. And um, yeah, so people really need to be tracking how they're being impacted mentally, physically, emotionally, and I would say psychologically and spiritually.
Awesome. Which leads to kind of my next question in terms of how do we cope with that? How do we deal with some of this trauma that you speak to? So, what can Black African Canadian traditions or practices provide a sense of resilience and connection during these challenging times to support the wellness that you speak to?
Hmm. Well, we're a people from the collective. We come together, whether it's sitting under the tree, connecting in a church or a place of worship, sitting in a circle somewhere, sitting around the dinner table, shooting the breeze, liming down the street. For those of you who are Trini and Guyanese. So communal rituals, communal spaces, spaces where we can gather, where we can share, where we can grieve, where we can speak, where we can be witnessed and held. It's really, really important. So finding a ways for community interventions, but I would say even in our families, having conversations, in our workplaces, because in these times, trying to keep it together and keep on keeping on is doing a disservice to us mentally and psychologically. So we need to have spaces in places of worship, with families, with friends, in our workspaces, and creating intentional spaces, spaces for intentional processing. So calling people together, like, come, let's sit and let's talk about what we're witnessing and how our story, this story is touching our story. And, just creating a space for people to unburden and to name what is real and true and hard for them as they're witnessing, because vicariously we're being traumatized by what we're seeing and hearing. And there need to be space for that.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, Chris, I love that you've highlighted the importance of having these conversations in all walks of life, right? Personally, with your family, your friends, at school, at work, whatever the case happens to be. I want to speak for us as a group real quick, if I can, that traditionally we don't do these things, or we haven't done these things, right? We've traditionally maybe leaned on a person or two, but it's important, especially of late, to have these conversations amongst ourselves and our peers so that we can all heal together. So I really applaud that you're highlighting, the importance in all walks of our personal lives to do these things.
Hmm. And I would say, Jay, that we used to do these things
Mm,
and we've forgotten. So the remembering will help us to heal. The remembering the ways of our people, the remembering the ways of our ancestors, because we are a communal folk. We're communal folk. But over time, the systems and the structures that we, um, have had to navigate, and we've found a way to make a way. We've forgotten some of those practices and those customs and traditions. And now more than ever, it's important for us, Sankofa. It's never too late to go back and fetch that what was lost. Really, really matters.
I love it. I love it. And I totally agree with you. Again, natural flow into this next question I have for you. In what ways can we incorporate into coping strategies, some of which you've mentioned already, to help families navigate the impact of the conflict more effectively, especially when speaking with their children?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just to give families some information. First of all, I would even invite them into a dialogue. So it's not a one-way thing. So
Mhm.
inviting it, what are you seeing? What are you noticing? What are the questions you're hearing from your little ones? Um, how much media are they taking in? Mainstream media, social media, and to get a sense of, what might be happening in different households, and then offer some information and some strategies, acknowledgement, validation, validating that it's okay to be scared. It's okay to feel angry. Your full range of emotions. It's okay to feel sad. Name that and validate it. Give some information around how to hold those conversations with their little ones. Give some suggestions, like you might want to do a little bit of digital detox. If your teenager is on, on their social media, wait, if you notice that they're on there and they're just tuning in and tuning in and tuning in, find a way to pull back. And even to engage in a conversation, because the teenagers are like, no, I'm not giving up my phone. No, I'm not coming off of social media. And then engage in a conversation, not a battle, a conversation about why it matters to their mental health and well-being, that they kind of limit some of that. So dialogue is key, acknowledgement is key, validation, and just finding ways to break the silence really matters. And let parents know that, and regardless of Black, Jewish, Palestinian, Muslim, wherever, let people know that pain is here. This is very traumatic for all of us, but healing is possible. Pain is here, but healing is possible. So that could be one of the things that gets communicated um, to the families.
Pain is here, but healing is possible. I'm gonna write that one down. I do like that, Chris.
Hmm.
Um, Very much a
I can't
holistic.
take I can't take credit for that. So I will just say anonymous because I don't remember where I heard it. But yes, I've come across this saying, I should say, that pain is here, but healing is possible.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Well, I have to look it up to give true credit, but you've introduced it to me, so for now, you're going to get my credit. Um, I'm hearing a very much a holistic approach, right? So acknowledging, as you said, what's currently happening, what has happened, validating feelings by all means too, and finding ways to communicate essentially how to not just individually as the children, but parents as well. How are they healing, right?
Hmm.
Families, caregivers, grandparents. How are we all as a family healing within our own community spaces, but then as a community as well? All
Hmm.
necessary, tangible steps to ensure that yeah, we can overcome. And obviously I do love that you highlighted the fact that this is not just a black white issue. It's all of the identities that you listed, right? Jewish, Palestinian, South Asian, whatever the case,
Queer,
whatever the case
trans,
happens to be.
non-binary folks, like, like we've all experienced trauma, right? Which is
Absolutely.
just a wounding. Trauma is wound, a Greek word for wound. And so to this point, I would add that something you can also do to support parents is give them some tools.
Mm,
So talk to them about what happens to to them, right? All the stuff that's coming in, nightmares, intrusive thoughts, or blood pressure going up. 1 minute you're feeling sad and scared, and another minute you're angry and pissed off. All of that stuff will impact the body. So giving some information about how you can help your body, your system, your nervous system, because all of our nervous system right now, it's out of whack. Fight, flight, freeze. We're scared,
mm,
we're angry, we're pissed off, or we're just going to curl up in a ball and not do anything. And so give information about these are some simple things that you can do to take care of yourself. And I know people think breathing, everybody talks about breathing, but here's what happened. There's a nerve in our body called the vagus nerve. It's called the wanderer because it starts in the belly and it moves on up and it comes up into the neck. And this nerve is responsible for, is what gets activated when we're in fight, flight, freeze. And so what we want to do is to help that nerve to calm down, to help our heart rate to come down, to help our blood pressure to come down. And so sharing with folks how they can take care of the nervous body, the vagus nerve,
mhm.
drinking some water, taking some deep breaths. Even what do people do when they're pondering? They're often sometimes sitting like this. When I sit like this, I'm actually pressing in the side of my neck. When I
Hmm.
take a sip of water, I'm activating the vagus nerve in my neck, even when I just swallow. So I don't have water near me, but I'm activated. Take a take a swallow. But you can also, right? Instinctively, a lot of us do this. We're actually helping our system to relax. And so, so sharing information about how to take care of yourself in the moment when you can't run to the doctor, you can't pop that pill, or you can't get to yoga, or you can't get to mommy and curl up in mommy's lap while you're
Hmm.
scared, here's some ways that you can self-soothe because we're all in need of self-soothing right now.
Fantastic. Again, you're sharing some gems, some gem talk, if you will. I love that saying. For again, tangible ways in which we can take care of ourselves, take care of our families as well. The last thing I'll mention is I do hear some connection to a team approach, right? So that's happening at home, but now I'm thinking about ways in which this work that you mentioned can also happen in the school, right? So we've made a bridge between home and school, the creation of safe space for children to allow themselves to engage in all of this work that you shared, or tangible strategies or ways that can essentially help them self-soothe. So that part I think needs to be highlighted too. Do you quickly want to talk about how schools can do this?
I mean, same thing, creating space for conversation, validation, validation, validation. In times like these, connection is key. And we need to be validated, or stories need to be witnessed. So, creating spaces for conversation, creating spaces for validation. Now, I know, and there might be some hesitancy to do that because there's a lot of different perspectives and point of view. And I know people are very careful about, what we invite because we don't know where it's going to go. But creating, inviting young people, the children, the students, the little ones and the older ones into conversation, but creating a container, a safe container that says, we're going to, let's talk a little bit about what's happening. And actually, we're not talking about those people, and we're not talking about the rightness or the wrongness of any point of view. We're talking about you. How are you being impacted by what you're hearing? How are you being impacted by what you're seeing? Here are some tools that you can consider to support you to navigate all the feelings that's churning up in you. So we take it off of the bigger, right, social and political context and we bring it into, how are you being touched? And what is it you're needing? And here's some things you might want to think about to support you in those moments when you're feeling all churned up inside because of what might be moving through your mind stream. So that's what I would say, you know?
No, again, fantastic, tangible tools, resources, thoughts, and approaches. So really do thank you for sharing all of your
Mhm.
expertise, especially in keeping our Afrocentric, Black African Canadian approach and lens in mind. So, I mean, although it's a few questions, this is the beginning of a conversation. Chris, I just want to thank you for your time. I'm hoping that your message through this platform gets shared over and over and over again. And hopefully we can have a conversation similar to this in the near future. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jay. Thank you. Thank you.